Our church will have this gigantic Christmas pageant every year. I mean, I don't remember the event as much, but my parents always tell me that this is probably the event where I got it. It was one Christmas performance. They had finally kind of forced me into it. I didn't want to do it. And so I was one of the kids that got to come whenever baby Jesus was born. And so in my little mind, I was like, okay, so the wise men come up, they give all their gifts, and then I come up and I just look at him. And so apparently what happened was I walked up on stage and I just threw my arms out and then walked off. My parents later were like, Andrew, what on earth were you doing? And I was like, well, I didn't have a gift, so I just gave myself to baby Jesus. And so it was this funny story, but I always remembered that was like, I loved the stage. I loved being up there. I loved getting to give to other people. And so I think that's probably where it came from. Well, before I get on stage, I have to show up at the theater. I don't even think about the show for a little bit. I like to unwind and just mess around and be weird. The costume, I just put like half the costume on because, especially in this show, it's really hot and sweaty after a while. I find a long space where no one is walking, and I just recite my lines like a good around 2 times, just to make sure I still have the pattern in my head. I still have the thought processes that I plan to use on stage. But it's learning how to make it real to you, how to actually become a different person, to actually think like a different person and react and listen to people not with your own brain. That's a big struggle of mine, is just putting someone else's thought process in my own head and just letting that run.
Wilt thou take this woman to be thy wedded wife, to live together after God's ordinances in the holy estate of matrimony? Wilt thou love her, honour her, comfort her, and to keep her, sickness and health, forsaking all others, as long as ye both live? I promise you, it sounded better today when I sang that.
My director had a different view of Elton than I did, and so I had already built an entire walking set, a mindset, a handset, and then she had me fully change it. And so I already had my brain, I had already put a new brain in, and then I had to take that one out and put another one in. And so that was really difficult because I had to fully reteach myself how to say my lines, how to walk on stage. And I'm still trying to, even as the show's running, I have to get it into my head. I'll find a night where I'm like, nope, that's not Elton's walk anymore. That's the wrong one.
It is a marvelous idea, Miss Woodhouse, to exercise your ample talents as a favor for your friend. I have no doubt that you will do your friend justice.
So what I've noticed with Mr. Elton is I have to feel the audience. The first time I walk out on stage, doing a weird thing, I make a whole lot of weird faces and hand gestures just to test the audience. And if I hear them begin to chuckle, I'm like, okay, I can do this. And so I'll then continue to do what they want me to do.
Your steadiness with the brush, Miss Woodhouse, is remarkable.
It isn't difficult to paint someone as beautiful as Harriet.
I cannot wait another moment.
Do be patient, Mr. Elton.
It really depends on the role. There's a lot of roles in dramas where there's nobody around. I have to literally build walls and make rooms around myself to fully get into it. But then with certain ones like this, with comedic roles, you have to feel the audience. You have to get their vibes, how they want you to do it that day. If they're ready to laugh the entire time, or if they just want to see a weird guy on stage. And you just got to make those choices as you feel how well they react in the first few scenes.
But you'll have to settle for me, I'm afraid, as your companion this evening.
Nothing would make me happier. Oh, Miss Woodhouse, do not force me to contain myself any longer.
Pardon?
You are my light, my soul, my morning, my evening. You are the love of my life.
Mr. Elton, what are you doing?
Just let me look at you and praise you and caress your eyes.
Mr. Elton!
Surely, you've seen my boundless affection for you.
What?
So I have hung on your every word.
I have not.
I adore you, Miss Woodhouse. I have adored you since having had a heartfield, hoping that you would return my love, but fearing that I might not be good enough for you.
I beg your pardon,
Now,
Mr. Elton.
I know that my love cannot be equal to anything. I am willing to die if you refuse me, but I know you are.
Mr. Elton, what are you talking about?
I am inflamed with
Oh,
passion.
restrain yourself, sir!
And so as an actor, whenever you perform with however great or small your gifts are, you have to realize that what you do is fully going to affect someone. It's going to change them.
Miss Smith? Miss Smith? I don't understand.
I'm astonished. Especially after observing the attention you paid her.
But heavens, Miss Smith? I've never given her a thought. If she was not your friend, I couldn't care whether she were alive or dead. She thought otherwise. Her own feelings had led her astray, and I am sorry for that. But who can think of Miss Smith when Miss Woodhouse is near?
It was called The Seussification of Romeo and Juliet. So it was Romeo and Juliet, Dr. Seuss style. So we were wearing funky wigs, really bright, weird clothing. We rhymed the entire show. And so this show, I was super excited about it until I opened up the script the first day. And I looked at it and I was like, there are a bunch of things in this show I don't feel comfortable saying. And so I just walked around my house praying that night. My family came in and I talked to them about it. I mean, it's not like they were bad words. They were just weird words that I wasn't comfortable saying. Just figuring out it's how I say them. It's how I portray them. It's the way you say everything in the show. Because you can take things the right way or the wrong way with any sentence. And so it was just finding out a positive, funny way to bring it to the audience. Not necessarily with evil roles, but there's certain roles that their mindset is so dark and twisted that you just have to be wary, because you literally have to take on the mindset. And as a Christian, it just feels nasty to take on certain mindsets. And so I don't think that's necessarily a limiting thing. I just have to check myself and find a good motivation for the character with his mindset that doesn't take him to that place. And if need be, I just tell them, hey, I can't do that. You can find someone else. I'd be happy to do another part. But I don't feel comfortable, and my faith won't allow me to get to that place. I think he's called me into it because there's a lot of lost people in the theater and arts world. There's a lot of people that they need to know about Jesus. I know there's silly shows half the time, but that God, he can even use the silliness to encourage someone, to give them motivation to get through their day. There's a lot of selfish people in the theater world. I'm selfish half the time in the theater world too. I have to check myself and pray about it every day. You know, I'm human, I'm still gonna be selfish. But it's how I have to always make the choice to be interested in other people, because they don't see that a lot, they don't get that a lot. And so when they see someone that actually cares about them and that actually is interested in some part of their life, it'll change their mindset on Christianity, change their mindset on Jesus, to realize he does care. There are people that actually care about them out there. It's using the gifts he's given you and recognizing it's not my gift. It's not by anything I'm doing right now that's allowing me to be on stage. Recognizing that he's the one that gave you the gift. And then with all praise, acclamation, and clapping, you get to go, this doesn't belong to me, it belongs to him who gave it to me. And so just always pointing to him and realizing it's not of you, it's not something you've done, it's a gift you've been given. And now you get to give it to others, you get to give it back to your castmates, you get to give it to the audience, and you get to give it back to God. So my prayer is that it'll always, with every audience member, just one simple thing that might happen in the show might be something that they've dealt with or something that they are dealing with, and that it would give them motivation that someone else has been through it, someone else knows exactly where you are, and someone else has gotten through it, they've survived, and that they can always keep going, and God's always going to help them through it.